Welcome everyone to Train Tuesday. I'm your host, Jim Wiggins. So glad to have you on board. Hope you're enjoying your summer. There's a lot of construction going on here, but you'll have to wait and see what that means later in the year. We're going to be talking about a very early diesel, and that is the EMC, later EMD, Model 40. It's a really interesting little critter. It was used even though they only made about 11 of them, and it's the subject of today's Train Tuesday. Now, if you like the content that you see delivered on a weekly basis, please do us a favor, like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. That way you're notified every time a new video like this drops into the channel. And do comment. I do my best to answer as many comments as possible, and we do enjoy the interaction. So without further ado, let's talk about this highly anticipated model. Now, we introduced this model back in 2023, March of 2023, and it had been a while since we had actually run it. Now, it was updated so that it now includes DCC ready, and that's for the Next 18 style plug. Now, this is a very small switcher, and a lot of folks have been asking us, can we add sound to these? Well, there's not a lot of room in there once you take the shell off. I'm sure there's some enterprising modelers out there that could add a speaker and a sound decoder of your choice. I haven't figured out how to do it yet since these are brand new and they're not even here yet. But again, somebody out there will probably figure out a way to do it. Now, a little bit of background on this model. It's a really interesting model. The EMD Model 40, it was a two-axle diesel electric switcher locomotive built by what was called back then EMC. Now, that's, of course, the successor to EMD. Now, this model was built between August of 1940 and April of 1943, and they were widely nicknamed as critters because they're so tiny. But it's an interesting locomotive in the fact that it was powered by twin General Motors Detroit Diesel 6-71 diesel engines, which produce a combined horsepower of 300. Now, its drivetrain is unusual because the two diesel engines are used to drive the electric DC generator from both sides of the unit. One would spin in a clockwise rotation, the other in a counterclockwise rotation. Really interesting little switcher. At the end, there was only about 11 of these built, but believe it or not, even in modern day, a lot of these still exist, and that's what we wanted to offer in this run. We wanted to give you, the modeler, some modeler's license and introduce some models that were based purely on what may be seen at a small industrial area, all the way to actual locomotives. So without further ado, let's go ahead and show you what is going to be coming soon. So the first one is called the goat, the shop goat, the yard goat, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't have a specific era. It is made to go on your layout, whether you want to use it in an industrial setting. Maybe you've got a grain elevator that could use some help, and this is the perfect locomotive for it. You have to remember, once these were first produced in the 1940s, after their initial use, they were sold off to second, third, sometimes up to 4 or 5 owners before ending up where they are on any particular place. This is a plausible locomotive to add if you've got a large industry on your layout, or if you simply just want to have something a little bit more interesting than the standard run-of-the-mill locomotive. Now, a lot of folks have been asking, does the beacon on top actually function? Well, the good news is there are LEDs in there, and since the whole locomotive is equipped with LEDs, when you put in the decoder of your choice, you can simply set that LED to function in the beacon style that you wish. Now, here's one that's based on actual fact. Professional Locomotive Works, this is original build number 2284, and it was built for the United States Army as 7952. It was then sold to Acme Newport Steel, and then it went to Newport, Kentucky as MPTX number 1. Eventually, it found its way to Professional Locomotive Services, and it was restored by them to look as you see here. This is how it looked in 2018, and I'm sure it still looks that way now. Now, Professional Locomotive Service, they do all types of rebuilds and things of that nature, so this little shop switcher is probably perfect for what they're doing in real life. If you're into this type of model, this is going to be the perfect one and probably one of the newer ones based on fact that you can add to your fleet. Here's one of the Electro-Motive Division's versions. Now, they built 3 in total. And these were used as shop switchers amongst their own buildings and such. Many of these years later were sold off and sold for different industries. But for those that want to model the 1940 OG model, here is your version right here. Now, keep in mind, all of these models come from the factory as DCC ready. So you can run them out of the box standard DC if you like, or you can simply upgrade these with a Next 18 plugged decoder of your choice. Here's the United States Army. Now, the United States Army actually ordered 3 of these from EMD, and they were used throughout the country as plant and ordnance type switchers. Now, these are the early days of dieselization of American railroads. 1940s, steam firmly had a step in all types of operations, including military operations. However, based on maintenance and manpower, these little guys were perfect for moving smaller loads amongst different bases and such. So we're going to offer 2 different road numbers for this. The one that you see on your screen now, 7952, as well as number 7954. And again, this is based on 1940 on up. Here's another one that's actually built based on an actual model. This is the Borg Warner Calumet steel. Now, this little model was ideal steel mill switcher, and now you can put it to work on your steel mill as well. This is roughly how it appeared in the 1970s. Again, you see you've got that rooftop beacon. So with that rooftop beacon, again, if you use the decoder of your choice, you can certainly set that up to the flash rate that you're happy with. Here is another one that is based on fact, and it's a prime for grind model. Really cool little model. You can even take it even further if you wish. We started it by fading out the yellow, fading out the red. We've also shown some chip paint from different parts of the cab as well as the hood. This was originally serial number 1309, and it was built for US Rubber. Now, this guy had quite the lineage. From US Rubber, he went to Penn Dexy Cement. From there, he went to North American Coal Company, Indian Head Mine, and then to Sun Prairie Corporation in North Dakota. Finally, it went to Lake Superior Railway Museum in Duluth, Minnesota, which I believe it still currently resides. This is based on how they received it in the 1970s. There's actually a really good picture of this out there on the internet if you want to do some digging. But this is another one of those really unique models based on how it looked in the 1970s, and you can definitely add more grime and dust to this to your liking. And then finally, we've got another one. This is a non-specific, and this is the one that I've got behind me on the layout. This is, again, perfect for somebody that has an industry that they could use a small yard switcher. Again, you could use this for a larger grain facility, or maybe you could use it for a steel mill, or any number of types of industries that you could use this for, where a full-size Jeep or even SD wouldn't be necessary. Now, this one, of course, does include the beacon on the roof, and you probably can't see it, but mine is actually flashing. I installed a decoder in mine. There's many different decoders that you can use to install in these, and as long as it has the Next 18, it's a really simple procedure. Now, let's talk a little bit about the features of these models, and there's actually more features. I just put the big ones here. You can select the links in the video description below, and that will take you to not only the original announcement like you saw at the beginning of this program, but also more information about the model. And you'll also be directed to the website. Now, currently, these are not in stock. They're not here yet. However, we're anticipating that we should start seeing these shipped to dealers by the end of August. So depending on when you're watching this video, the latter part of August 2025 is when we see these shipping to dealers. So these feature a separately applied horn, exhaust stack, and bell. Little tiny guys, but they've actually got some great little details to them. And they are, again, based on the actual prototype. These have quick plug and play technology, so they're DCC ready. And trust me, super easy. As long as you get a decoder with an X18 plug, it's a very simple procedure. Only takes maybe 20 minutes of your time. They do include bidirectional constant lighting, so the headlight remains constant in both directions. They are now updated with LED lighting. These have all-wheel drive with precision gears and smooth and quiet operation. Now, that being said, I want to let you guys know, since these guys are so small and you only have 2 axles on this guy, that's where your electrical pickup is. One of the things I would recommend is if you have a smaller layout and it's like mine, my turnouts are supposed to be powered. However, at the evolutionary stage of my layout, they are not currently powered. Since these guys are so tiny, they will stall on my turnouts currently. So if you have turnouts that are powered, probably not going to have any problems. Another thing is I'd also recommend some break-in time for these. They have really tiny little gears. They've been lubed from the factory. They've been initially run, but every little locomotive like this likes to have some run-in time. So break these in a little bit. Let them run. If you've got a test track that you can run these on for a little bit, let them run a little bit, because this one here, right out of the box, is already improved just for me running it back and forth on the layout. These do have all-wheel drive, albeit you've only got 4 wheels, so keep that in mind. But you do have a nice smooth gear train, and it's really quiet. I was really impressed with how quiet it is. You do have all-wheel electrical pickup, and the minimum radius on these, this is the greatest thing. It's not 18, it's 15 inches. So the smallest little industrial layout that you can think of, this guy will run on. So even if it's just a shelf layout like I have, you can see how it's dwarfed by my 40-foot boxcar here. And if you're modeling 1940s, 1950s, the 40-foot is perfectly fine. If you're modeling something a little bit newer, well, in reality, this is probably only going to be able to haul a couple of different boxcars at the most, because boxcars nowadays are typically 60 feet. But if you're modeling in the olden days, the 40-foot era, you can probably do 1 or 2 at a time to keep it plausible. Now, like I said, these are going to be in stock at your Athearn dealer. We're predicting probably late August. I know a lot of you guys have been waiting for these. These are really cool. When we announced these, a lot of folks are really happy that we brought them back. And again, they've been updated to have LEDs, and they've been updated to have the Next 18 plug-and-play decoder, making things a little bit easier. So with that said, I'm going to do a quick run-by on this, and then I'm going to show you just how easy it is to add a decoder to one of these. Okay, we're at Wigan Locomotive Works. Or if it's the Truesville, maybe it's the Truesville Locomotive Works, depending on what the name of your workbench is. I wanted to show you how easy it is to add a decoder to this. Now here we've got our little blue and gray EMD 40. The first thing you're going to need is you're going to definitely want some type of way to keep that locomotive nice and safe as we work on it. You're going to need a small Phillips screwdriver, and you're going to need a small standard flat blade screwdriver as well. Now, for the purpose of this video, I'm using a Tsunami 2 decoder. This is the TSU N18, normally used in N scale. You'll see just how small this is inside. Why am I using a Tsunami 2? Well, because I've got it on hand, actually. You can use any decoder of your choice. And I mean, obviously, if you're not going to put sound in it, you don't need a Tsunami 2 sound decoder. There are plenty of decoders out there that have the next 18 plug, and they can be found anywhere that sells quality decoders. All right, so I've got my foam here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this little guy over, and I'm going to carefully remove these coupler pockets. Now I'll move this up to the camera so you can see. There's the one, and I'll move it this way. You can see the other, and you're also going to see those two screws in the fuel tank area. That's what we're going to be tackling. Now, I know some of these questions in the comments are going to be, do I have to use the couplers that come with it? No, you don't. These will work with other brands of couplers. And to get to those, first thing I'm going to do is, since I'm 50-something, I'm going to put my optivisors on. I'm going to try to stay out of the camera so you can see what I'm doing. We're going to start by removing that fuel tank area. There we go. Most model railroaders probably have these tools in their toolbox, I would assume. Set that aside. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove these coupler boxes. So if there is a coupler that you prefer to use, you're going to need a whisker style coupler. I'll show you here in a second. I pull this guy off and I pull the draft box off. Hold this up to the camera. Focus camera. It's really tiny. But it is a, put it over the green, maybe you can see, a whisker style coupler. So there are other couplers out there that will work if you're more into the metal style couplers. We get it. We just figured that it's better than the old XF11 horn hooks. Okay, I've got both of those removed. Now the next thing you want to do, you want to be careful with this. You're going to think that this little piece of plastic right here is what's holding the body shell on. Don't take that off. In fact, don't make the mistake of going like this and risking removing that band, because that's part of what holds the two-piece chassis in shape. Carefully, and I do mean carefully, with a very small flat blade screwdriver, just kind of work that up. It will pop out. It's just a friction fit. And at this point, I'm going to move my foam, and I'm going to put that there. Let's see if we can get just a little bit of light on there so you guys can see this. I'm going to try not to blind you out with too much light. Try to get rid of that glare. There we go. Turn that down just a tad. There we go. So here you can see we've got our motherboard and we've got the board that we're going to remove. I'll move this up to the camera just so you can see right there in the middle. Now, while I've got this off too, you can see this guy does not have a lot of room. That doesn't mean it's impossible. Somebody out there is probably going to figure out a way to put a speaker in it, probably before me, because I have not had a lot of time to play with this. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to remove this guy. It's pretty cut and dry at this point. That just pops out. And let's see, I've got my little Tsunami 2, which again, kind of overkill for this guy because I'm not going to put sound in it, but I had it on hand, and you'll notice, you probably won't see it in the video, but I do want to point it out. There is a small arrow. And if you look at your decoder, there should be an arrow to match it. I'll line up, make sure that the arrows are in the right place. And this one, it just fits in there very nice. And that just pops in like that. At that point, all you need to do is simply reverse the process of which got you here. Snap that body back on. Bring in our foam cradle so we don't break anything. And I'm going to attempt to put these couplers back on camera. If it gets too long, I'll just pause this real quick. But let's see how I can do. It's like watching one of those car shows. Well, that bolt came out so easy. Yeah, it's because we stopped the camera and went to commercial. Now, so far, I'm not doing as best as I would like. So to keep this from getting too long, you know how a coupler box goes back together again. I'm going to pause this real quick. Done. All right, now we'll put on our fuel tank assembly here. It's also your gear cover. One thing I do want to mention too is the wheels are chemically blackened. I've kind of polished mine up a little bit. If you're into DCC, you probably already know this. I like to take my locomotives when they come from the factory and take my wheel sets out and completely clean them and polish them just for the better electrical pickup. That's it. We just screw those guys back in. And our little Model 40 is ready for earning its keep on the layout. So, like I said, these are great little models. Really like the way they turned out. If you do have a situation where your handrails come loose, they are made of the really springy material so that they don't get broken very easily. That's why I like to put these on the foam, but they will just insert back into the cab or on the side of the cab, depending on what end that is. Now, at this point, if you've installed your decoder, you're going to have to do some programming, and that programming is up to you. You can look at the manufacturer's values and set it up as you like. Since this is Tsunami 2, FX number, I believe it's 3, which is function 24. I set that as a Western Coolant type beacon, so it blinks like that. And with my current setup with the NCE throttle, it is option number 24. But your headlight and all of that is the same. Again, if somebody is out there and enterprising enough, they can probably put a speaker in there. There's not a lot of room. The decoder, I don't know if the camera can pick that up or not. You can see where the decoder is. I mean, the cab is pretty well filled up. But if you've got a small layout, I would highly suggest that you make sure your frogs are powered, that they're getting some kind of power, and polish up those wheels and give this little guy some time to break in. When I opened it up right out of the box, it needed a little bit of break-in time. It's probably run on the layout for, I don't know, 30 minutes, and it's been doing a lot better. So that's all I've got for you on this episode of Train Tuesday. Again, these should be in stock towards the end of August. That's August 2025. I know a lot of folks have been eagerly waiting for these, and why not? They're kind of a cool little model. And if you pre-ordered one of these, you're probably going to get an email or a phone call from your dealer in the next few weeks. If you did not pre-order one of these, I would highly suggest calling the dealer of your choice and getting an order in as soon as possible, because they probably will sell quickly. And I don't know when we're going to offer these again, to be honest with you. So why wait? Go ahead and grab one while you can. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Train Tuesday. Join me next week. We'll be talking about some Bethgons that we're really excited about, and I'm sure you are as well. But until next time, I want everybody out there to be happy, be healthy, be safe, do some good modeling, and above all, high greens. Take care, everyone.